Hello there. It is 7:04 p.m. on Wednesday, the 18th of March, 2026, and I have set up camp on this pretty snowy area. I'm at 4,700 feet, which is a little bit regrettable. I would definitely prefer to be lower, having just recently spent an excellent zero in Hot Springs, which is at 1,400 feet. Being back up at 4,000 plus seems like a bit of a literally tall order. But thankfully, there's like hardly any wind. So even though it is chilly out, it's not like cold. Like if it was windy up here, I would not be able to stay. I'd have to move on and figure something else out. But, I planned for this campsite yesterday and I was like, okay, that sounds nice. Like someone had said that there was either a gorgeous or a beautiful campsite right here. And it probably is a little bit better when it's not so snowy, just so you can kind of see things. Like it was hard to actually see where a reasonable tent plot would be in this area. I actually walked by this whole area and thought maybe the spot was somewhere else because I was like, it's not particularly beautiful. Although again, maybe I'm missing something because it's all covered in snow. But I walked about 0.1 miles further down the trail, and then my spidey sense started kicking in, and I was like, I'm ready to stop, and I know that I could make something work at the place that I'm at, and so I turned around, and where I am at specifically is mile 296 and a half. On the Appalachian Trail at a place called Camp Creek Bald Trail Intersection, and I'm at 4,727 feet. Just enjoying some of the spoils of town. Packed out a beer, a pale ale, and also a little thing of wine, some Liberty Creek American Chardonnay. And yeah, all things considered, I feel really good. It was, I think, a 22-mile day, which is, again, that's pretty much where I wanted to be, 22.1. And, yeah, there was a part of me, it's funny because you go to hostels and you just become very quickly very acquainted with the people who you're sharing space with. And several of the people who were there at Hot Springs, they hiked to a shelter that was about 2 miles south of here. And shout out to my parents, and then also shout out to Mustard Seed, who had her first 20-mile day. I assume you made it, and congratulations for that. She was one person who I met. She's 18 years old, and I was just like, wow, that's crazy. Like literally half my age, and awesome, and kudos to her for being out here to do something like this so young. I know that I would be an entirely different person if I had done the trail at 18 instead of the first time doing it at 29. And so, it's not envy. I guess it's respect that I have for her. Because I'm just like, good for you. Like these days, electing to do something difficult like the Appalachian Trail, it doesn't seem like a very common choice for many people, especially amongst young people. And, who knows how true that is. But for sure, I will say that the age range out here on the Appalachian Trail does not skew young very often. I consider myself to be one of the younger people on the trail at 36. And even still, that's not particularly young. You know what I'm saying? I think that you do. But yeah, my clip from yesterday feels like eons ago. In fact, I'm going to put my gloves on. Because why not? I need to start hoarding my heat, my dude. And there's no reason. I saw this guy when I was in the NOC, and he was talking about how you shouldn't be carrying water to water. Meaning that, if you're hiking and you have, multiple liters of water on you, and you're also passing water sources, you really shouldn't be carrying so much water because those were other opportunities you could have gotten more water that you didn't have to carry. And so similarly, I forgot how that related. But yeah, I guess one thing I know I wanted to say in my general rambling was that my 0 in hot springs was much needed, and it really didn't fully kick in with its rejuvenating qualities until after I made the clip that I made. I think last night I ate a bunch of sweets. Like I ate so much stuff last night. People had a bunch of like things that were out for free that they didn't want to carry with them, and so I availed myself to many fudge rounds and other Little Debbie's fine products, and I just gorged myself. It was crazy. As soon as I started, I just couldn't stop, and I really think that ultimately was the reset that I needed. I think I needed to consume a bunch of calories that were like not particularly protein or fat oriented. Like it was just about restoring glycogen stores in my body. And although that's not like the way I would prefer to do it, I'd rather eat like a whole pack of dates and peanut butter or something like that, it seems like it did the trick. So I came more online throughout the day yesterday, but yeah, let me think. I guess I went out in the morning to get like breakfast things so that I could eat. It was funny because when I was in Hot Springs, like there were a couple of different shops that had food, and the Dollar General, I didn't even go to the Dollar General initially, but it ended up that the Dollar General had all of the food items pretty much that I was wanting, and at a much lower price. I regret that I didn't get any cheese to pack out with me, because as Professor says, shout out to Professor, cheese makes the meal. And yeah, I think I'll probably be adding that to my list here soon enough. But yeah, I basically yesterday, after making the clip, I went back and just kind of took it easy. I had done 81 miles in 3 days, and that was a big push. And I was talking to my mom earlier, shout out to my mom, I like that I was able to see that I still can do those miles with little repercussions necessarily, but it also served as a additional reminder that like that's not really the hiking style that I want to do, because when you're doing big days like that, the only real goal of the day is to finish it and to get where you wanted to go. And so you sacrifice a lot of the actual pleasure of like walking in the woods and enjoying the space around you, because when you're focused on just strictly moving through space in a mission oriented way, which from time to time I do like, but it kind of gets to a point where like, you are just completely tunnel vision with your priorities, and it's not about the experience, it's about the destination, which is, in my opinion, the opposite way that this thing should by and large be about. It should be about the experience, which I feel like I made up for while in Hot Springs. But it took a little while for me to downshift from having been on the road. I got in to Hot Springs from the NC 209 Rattler Road, and it was just as it had started to really start raining badly, and also the temperature was falling. And so, it was just sort of like a recovery mode that took a couple of tens of hours to really kick in. I really wish I'd packed out some beef. That would be amazing right now. I could use that, I'll tell you. I haven't been cooking any meals on trail. I've been just eating things out of packages. That hasn't really been too much of a detriment to my morale or my stomach, but as I sit here on this high precipice, I do think that it would be nice to eat hot food. I think I was going to say that. I think my hiker hunger has kicked in. It's been 18 days, so that seems about right for things to be ramping up to a point where the voraciousness of my appetite has been reawoken. But yeah, so yesterday, as far as I can remember, I spent, maybe an hour or so after the clip and eating and stuff like that, just kind of looking over the map and figuring out what I wanted to do next on trail, and if there were going to be any deviations, which there will be. I've decided that tomorrow, I believe, will be a 14-mile day, and I will camp at a road intersection that will take me fairly directly into Irwin, and by that I just mean it'll be 17 miles instead of 36 miles on trail. So I'll do a road walk into Irwin, and that's mostly so that I could keep my food carry low and not have to worry so much about the additional weight of having to get all the way to Irwin based on trail miles. And so I have today, tomorrow, and the day after that kind of worked out. I think today's Wednesday, so Thursday of 14. Friday, I believe, is a 24-mile day, but most of that is on the road, if not all of it, because I really, really enjoy camping on the trail like that. I would go into town every single day, and I've mentioned this many times, just because the ease of being able to get what you need on a 2-day basis is just so much more desirable for what I want to do out here. It does mean that I can't really hold on to the connections with the people who I meet out here, which is regrettable, and it may not necessarily even end up being that way as things move forward, but at least for now, since I have ripped off that Band-Aid of skipping the Smokies and doing a road walk instead, I still feel like when the opportunity strikes for me to be able to move farther with less trail miles, I will take that opportunity and basically exploit it for the resources. At this point in particular, and this again is likely to change, resources are more important than relationships. And so I basically mapped out the next 3 days in terms of what I would need for resupply items, and then also just the logistics of getting to where I want to be. And I'm excited for the road walk again, because it's a 17-mile road walk to take me into Irwin, but I've never walked on that road. I don't think. I should say I certainly haven't walked on it. I don't think I've ever biked on it, but Strava will tell the tale soon enough. So, yeah, I basically did those logistics and hung out with one of the caretakers who was working on a write-up for her experience on the Pinhoti Trail, and that was enjoyable, and I just really felt like I just wanted to lay down. And so after doing all the logistics and feeling pretty good about the way I was setting myself up, I went to the bunks and I just laid down. It was from like 1 p.m. until 2 p.m. and I just listened to Jurassic Park and just relaxed, kind of stretched out my legs. There was another dude in there, shout out to Money Shot, and we were just both kind of chilling, doing our own thing, but sharing space. I believe they call it co-play, where you can basically be in the same place as another person, but not be interacting with them directly. You both are just doing your own thing, but it feels like you're together alone, which in 2019, actually, I liked thinking about the AT standing for Alone Together, because that's kind of what it felt like with my tramily. Like we were all going through this alone, but we were together in that. There's an old turn of phrase that comes to mind, which is that the slaves enter the Colosseum together, but they're crucified alone. And that's kind of what the trail experience is like, because, you go through all of the things that other people are going through, but you experience it uniquely. And so anyway, I did manage to lay in bed for about an hour, not sleeping, but just relaxing. Eyes closed, theater of the mind engaged with Jurassic Park. And at about 2 p.m.-ish, the caretaker, Kate, shout out to Kate, and her boyfriend, Tom, shout out to Tom. And, for good measure, shout out to my parents. They started pulling gear together. They had some things that they were wanting to do with some clients, more like appointments with clients. And so they were kind of moving in all of the spaces, and there were a bunch of gear items that were housed in the bunk room that I was in. And so there was like a lot of commotion, and people were like moving around and doing stuff. And so that was kind of when the social experience really engaged for me. And it was nice, all of the people at the Appalachian Trail, I liked all of them, and that's one of the key features of being on trail. It's just like, you encounter people that you would never otherwise meet, and you encounter them in intimate situations like sharing a bedroom, different bunks and stuff, of course, but it goes very quickly from you being alone to being alone together. And the friendships and the camaraderie, it's just, it's effusive, it's like, you're not desperate for connection, but connection is just so easily made effortlessly. And so that was great. Shout out to Preacher, a guy who, he was sort of the resident DJ. He was playing all this 70s music. Mom, you would have loved it, for the majority of yesterday. Just finding things on YouTube and playing them. And so there was like a constant hum of agreeable music throughout the course of the day. And then at about 2:30, I don't know, 3, who knows, I got up and got out, and I had to go do my resupply for all of the food that I would need to get to Irwin, and then also for the evening. And I think I probably ate, let me think, how many eggs did I eat? Let me think about this. I think, okay, yeah, I ate 3 dozen eggs while I was there. So in less than 48 hours, I ate 3 dozen eggs. And I had a pack of bacon, I had a pound of beef, I had some rice. I really wish that some grocery store had kimchi. That would have really, my favorite, town meal is to make beef, chicken, or turkey, like a pound of it, rice, and kimchi. I just feel like that just ticks all the boxes. But yeah, I ate a ton of food, a ton of good food, a ton of food that I miss, a ton of food that I wish was still here. But hey, that'll just make it all that much sweeter when I get to Irwin. And so, yeah, it was a nice evening just hanging out with all the people who were there. It was a full hostel because of the weather, and even more people showed up yesterday afternoon, and it was just very convivial. Everyone was on the same page. Everyone was happy to be out of the cold. Everyone was happy to have all of the access to all the resources that we did, and everything just felt good. And, again, the connections with people, they just feel instantaneously deep and meaningful. And so, yeah, like I said, I ate a bunch of food last night after eating dinner. As soon as I ripped that Band-Aid off of not eating bad processed food, I just couldn't stop. And I think I went to bed around 8. Several people did. It was dark, and it was a full house. There were so many people at the hostel, actually, that a couple of people actually slept in the living room on the floor, with their own sleeping bags and sleeping pads and all those things. So it was definitely fully occupied. But yeah, I couldn't fall asleep for quite a while because I'd eaten so much sugar that my heart was kind of beating pretty fast. And the bunk rooms were notorious, at least I found out the next morning, for being pretty warm. And so I was also pretty hot. My furnace was running high, and that was good. I think I needed that, honestly. I didn't enjoy the feeling of, my body processing all of the sugar that I had eaten, but it felt like it kind of was like a prime for my engine to kind of just get restarted and, I guess, sort of, it felt like stockpiling is what it felt like, biological stockpiling. So I'm not mad about it. And it was a good night, good vibes. And then got up this morning after a good sleep at about 7:30, and many people had already left to go back on trail. I was in no such rush. I had already purchased my food for the morning, and then I obviously had all the stuff that I was going to take with me, so I didn't need to go out again. I was just wanted to have another awesome breakfast, which I did, of 8 eggs and a bunch of cheese, and did dishes. I really enjoy doing dishes. I find it to be extremely rewarding and meditative, and so shout out to my dad. sorry that I left you with that task now that I'm gone, but perhaps you find a similar type of resonant value to it. But yeah, it was a good morning. The caretaker, Kate, was hosting a few other people who came in from Asheville, I think, or Montreat. They were from Montreat. And they were all talking about like how to kind of make your hiking experience less grueling with, like, basically how to not hike ultralight, which, ultralight hiking is like, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's like you have the lightest weight gear, you carry the least amount of things possible. And for me, I don't like the ultralight stuff. I've spoken about it before, but I don't trust it durability wise. So I enjoy having lightweight gear that is dependable and durable. But the ultralight stuff, that's in a whole nother level. It's like, I don't know. I feel like my hiking is like a Honda Accord. It's like reliable and trustworthy. And ultralight stuff is like a really expensive, like, European car that works really, really well as long as you have everything dialed in exactly right with like the conditions and your intentions and your deployment. Like, there's a lot that can go wrong with ultralight camping. And so it requires more maintenance. And to me, that I'm not someone who is particularly interested in gear as like a big part of this experience. Like, I like the gear that I have, but I'm not like scouring the earth for the lightest tent or trying to shave grams for hiking's sake. Like, I packed out a beer and a little baby wine, and those things would be anathema to an ultralighter, I'm sure, because that would just be dead weight that I carried for 22 miles. To me, it was totally worth it, and that's fair if other people don't agree. But yeah, you hike your own hike, as they say. So at about 9:30, I had done all my needfuls, and there was nothing left to do but leave. And so I bid adieu to all of my friends and wished them well, happy trails, etc. And then I left, and it hasn't been particularly cold today. I mean, it certainly is cold. I mean, at this position, I would imagine that the weather, it's probably in the mid 30s here right now. And I'd imagine it'll dip another 10 or so degrees overnight. All completely survivable. I do have all of my clothes that I brought with me on, from my leggings to my rain pants to my hiking shirt, my down jacket, and my rain jacket. Everything is layered, and I feel comfortable. I'm definitely cold, but it's like it's not beyond fingers. My vital organs are all warm and reasonably protected, and I haven't even gotten in my sleeping bag yet. So it'll be nice. It'll be a good night. Again, if the wind was different, I'd have to recalculate what I was doing, because this would be a inhospitable zone to try to sleep at if the wind was robbing me of the heat that my body can produce. But I don't foresee that being a problem overnight. And yeah, the hike itself for the day, it was nice. It was nice to be back on trail. Like, I honestly missed it. The road walk was good for what it was and for what I needed it to be. But camping in civilization is just an added stress that is, it reduces the joy, the joie de vivre. I'm sure that I will do it again. Civilization, the call of it is ever present for me. And so I have no doubt that I will end up doing something in the future, the near future, where I forego the cradle is the word that comes to mind. I was thinking the cradle of the trail, which is it's not so off from what I'm thinking. There's like, Well, the fact that I'm just allowed to be here and I don't have to worry about anything other than whether or not I can make it work. I don't have to worry about external factors. I would prefer moving forward to only go off of the trail when I can come back to the trail in the evening. But we'll see. As long as, or I should say, as soon as the winter passes in totality, there will really be no reason for me to need to camp inside of towns that I can think of. Because I don't know. Well, maybe that's not right. I don't know. I guess we'll just see. It doesn't really matter. But if I have my druthers, I would certainly prefer to camp on trail for the rest of this this trip. If I can go into town and make it work so I can get back on trail, then I will do that. But otherwise, I would definitely prefer to not sleep in unauthorized locations. And so, what is there to say about the hike? Well, there was a lot of elevation gain. Hot Springs was at like 1,300 feet, and I'm at now 47, I think I said. So 4,700 feet, a lot of up and down, and even just these last 2 miles to get where I am now, that was 1,000 feet of climbing. And again, it's not preferred to be this high when things are this cold, but the lack of wind is the only thing that makes it worth doing. And, I guess, I don't know, there's some modicum of pride. I feel like I could have happily stopped at the last shelter, but I just didn't want to. For whatever reason, I guess probably just, again, I had made the plan to go here, and so here I went. And here I am. I'm being here now, as they say. And yeah, the biggest highlight of the day, first of all, I finished the Jurassic Park book, which was amazing. So much better than the movie, inexplicably so. It's crazy how much different it is. Like, I've listened also to the Shining book, like Stephen King's The Shining, and that was so much different than the movie. And without getting into spoiler territory, not that I care, well, actually, they're not spoilers, they're just completely different plot points. But yeah, a lot more people died in the book Jurassic Park than died in the movie. What's his name? Jeff Goldblum's character, for instance, he died in the book. And the old man, Hammond, who was played by Richard David Attenborough, he dies in the book too. So it was a lot more gruesome, but man, that book is just so good. Like, it's hard to put into words why it is so. I mean, the movie is a standalone classic in and of itself, but the book was just so much more visceral and so much more personal, and the way that chaos theory is weaved into the whole breakdown of the park and why things failed the way that they did was so much more intriguing. So yeah, the book was great. I really enjoyed it, and it was crazy because it was like a 20-something hour book, and I listened to it in 72 hours or whatever it was. And what else? The main highlight of the day was running into Mustard Seed and Preacher, two people from the hostel. Mustard Seed was the 18-year-old girl, and Preacher was the man who was the DJ. And we all kind of were leapfrogging a little bit at a certain point. But there's also a legendary person on the Appalachian Trail called, well, there are a couple of people like this, but the one here was called the Cookie Lady. And true to form, she makes cookies, and you can go buy, and she'll give you a cookie for free, and then you can buy more cookies for $2 a piece. Preacher, Mustard Seed, and I, and me, Me, Dad, which one? And how do gears work in cars? I don't remember. Anyway, we were all there at the Cookie Lady's place at the same time, and that was pretty fun. I enjoyed that. She was there, the Cookie Lady herself, in the flesh, and I had a nice cookie, which was good because I think from there it was 2,000 feet of elevation gain over the next 5 miles for me to get here. And yeah, I have been listening to an Andrew Huberman episode with a guest. I think his name is Richie, which is kind of unprofessional, in my opinion. His name is what? What is his name, Andrew? Oh, come on, don't do this to me. What's his name? Dr. Richard Davidson. And the episode is called Science-Based Meditation Tools to Improve Your Brain and Health with Dr. Richard Davidson. And it was a good thing to listen to after Jurassic Park, for sure. I really enjoyed listening to it. I'm already 93% of the way done, which is crazy because I guess that means that Jurassic Park ended like 2/3 of the way through my day. But yeah, it's been a really interesting episode to listen to about meditation and health, as the title kind of hints at. But I don't know. Listening to it, I just feel like there's some sort of Taoist kind of like missing of the point. Western medicine is good, and Western perspectives are like meaningful for understanding reality, but especially listening to Jurassic Park, which was all about chaos theory and the complexity of life. I just feel like a lot of the Huberman episodes I listen to, I kind of listen to them in a way that makes me, it kind of validates a certain type of distrust of Western philosophy and medicine and thought. But without getting into that too much, there was a really cool thing that the guest mentioned that was a way of framing things that resonated with me. He said, when it comes to mental states, he said, after is the before of the next during. And I liked that because, I think when it comes to life and the states that human beings go through as we navigate life, after is the before of the next during. So, it's like, let me take a sip. When you think about what you go through on any given day, there are things that kind of occur consciously and subconsciously. And as soon as the guest said this, I understood it immediately, because I was like, that is exactly right. Like, everything kind of flows into the next state, the next stage, seamlessly, without much ado, to quote the Tao. And yeah, it's just like, I don't know, I don't know, I shouldn't say people, but I should use I statements. I am a biological materialist, and I believe that, things have a natural way of unfolding in a seamless fashion. And the state that you are in now is the thing. There are butterfly effects that occur that lead to the next things during. It reminds me, honestly, of a Mitch Hedberg joke, which is, he said, what does he say? It's like, I think it was about before and after photos. And he was like, I never see any during photos. You're you see the before, you see the after, but you don't see the during. And yeah, I don't know. Something about Jurassic Park's chaos theory being such a high point of fulcrum for the plot. And then also listening to this podcast about meditation, I just feel like there's like it's a fulcrum of nowness, and Western approaches to reality are really good at depicting the before and after, and I feel like Eastern philosophy is more all about the now, and I feel like that's something that I'm specifically navigating myself on this trip. You know, again, going back to the 30-mile days, those were all about the after and not about the now. And to that degree, the experience was diminished in an enjoyable way. And I guess what I'm trying to do is to skirt that line between the before and the after and spend more time in that during. And today was more of a during, you know. And I was happy to be back in the during. And I feel like being on the Appalachian Trail, there's a lot of during that you can experience as long as you plan things before as well as you can. And I feel like that's a good place to leave things for now. Tomorrow is going to be a short day, purposefully. I planned it to be short so that I could enjoy a little bit more relief and respite before walking into Irwin. But I have every intention in the world to be back on trail at the end of the day, Friday, and it'll be interesting to see how all of that unravels, especially with things like chaos theory to contend with. But maybe I'm getting too philosophical now. 37 minutes is a lot, and my wine is not a lot. It is a less. And yeah. I suppose that's as much as can be said. Rest in peace, Ian Malcolm, a.k.a. Jeff Goldblum. And for now, I'll leave it there with the classic, love you, bye.